Hello, and welcome to Stitching Across the Smokies. I'm Tanya, and I would like to welcome you to my little stitching neck of the woods. Today is Monday, October 6th. I hope everyone is doing well this morning and that you were able to get some stitching in over the past week. I would like to thank anyone who is returning. And for anyone who is new to my channel, I hope that you like what you see. And if you do, please like and subscribe. All right. I didn't get to go walking yesterday like I like to do on my off days. I ended up having to work. But I did go this morning. And I am going to insert yet another thing about a crane that I saw. However, this is going to be a short video, and I apologize about Benjamin. He's meowing. But it's just a little snippet, just a short video of the crane I saw this morning, where you can hear the bubbling water, and it's just so peaceful. So I will insert that here. Hopefully you were able to hear the bubbling water, where he was just standing there. I guess he was waiting on breakfast to swim by or something that he could munch on. But it was a peaceful walk this morning, and I needed it. So let's get on with what I worked on this past week. I worked on 7 projects. I don't feel like I got as much stitching in as I normally could have. I had a couple appointments after work, and then of course I had to work yesterday, so that cuts down on my stitching time. So let's start off with my one strand a week, or excuse me, one strand a day. Hopefully words are not going to be as hard today as they were the other day. Since it was the end of the month, Monday and Tuesday was still part of September, and just a moment. Let me grab him and let me introduce him to you, and maybe he will be quiet. Hello, everyone. Tell everybody hi, Benjamin. This is Benjamin. This is who you can always hear outside the door. He's my Ginger. Very, very talkative cat. All right. Let me put him back out. Okay, I'm back. Now I'll probably have cat hair all over me. But anyway, back to what I started to talk about, my one strand a day. Monday and Tuesday, we were still in the month of September, so I still had 2 more days left to stitch on Maggie the Messmaker. This is a Dimensions Gold Collection kit. I'm using everything in the kit to stitch on this. You should be seeing a picture, and I'm going to put a picture up, not of what you saw or how I ended the week last week, but I'm going to go ahead, since this was the last 2 days, I'm going to go ahead and put up a picture of the way it looked at the beginning of the month so that you can see the difference, the bigger difference. Artwork is by Charles Wysocki. Everything in the kit was used. This is where I got to. This fabric is 18 count Ada in the color beige. Again, what came with the kit. I'm using all the threads, of course, that came in the kit. And the number of threads and whether or not it is a full or half cross varies depending on what the pattern calls for. But my main focus this round, for this piece was to work some more on the sky in the window, finish up stitching the panes in the window. I started the curtains. I came over here, and this is the end of the pattern, and I worked on this wallpaper, which is like it is on the other side. And I ended up getting, for these last 2 days, 69 stitches. And that brings this piece to a total of 13,107 stitches. It's approximately 24% complete. And let me see if I can find where I had written down what my total stitches were. There it is. Sorry. I guess this went out of camera shot there. All right. Maggie the Messmaker, I ended up getting, in the month of September, a total of 2,562 stitches on this piece. So then, on Wednesday, my other one strand a day piece came out. And that piece is Candy Cane Santa. And it is also a Dimensions Gold Collection piece. It's designed by Donna Race. And again, I used everything in the kit. You should be seeing a picture of where it was last time I stitched on it, put it down before this month started, which would have been at the end of August. So you should be seeing that picture. And so this will be my piece that I stitch on a strand a day for the next 2 months. I give this piece 2 months rotation because it is my oldest whip. But here's where I was able to get to this week. And so this week, oh, I'm sorry. This has been obviously being stitched on everything in the kit. The number of threads and whether or not it's a half stitch or full cross depends on what the pattern calls for. It's been stitched on 16 count Ada in the color Dove Gray. And I got in 246 stitches this week, which is kind of low for this piece. Of course, it wasn't a whole 7 days on this piece, but was starting to get some of the little ninja stitches, and there wasn't any other stitches for that color anywhere near. So, but this piece got 246 stitches for this week, which brings it up to a total of 22,791 stitches, and it's approximately 44% complete. So that brings us to what my weekly focus was for this past week, and it was Seahorses. You should be seeing a picture of what it will look like when it's finished. It is a Haid with artwork by Renee Bertonfeld. You should be seeing a picture of what it looked like at the beginning of the week. And it is being stitched on 18 count Ada cream. And here's where I got to. So I made pretty good progress because this right here was just block stitching, more or less. Most of the color changes was here. I came across a few colors here that I don't have that I've got to pick up. But again, you can see the seashell, clamshell coming in right there. And it was so much fun to get down to the blues and some purples there. I think there's even a pink in there. So I do not have much further on this diagonal, and then I'll be able to come up and come back down again. And I'm very excited to get down into this part with all the beautiful colors. So on this piece this week, I got in 519 stitches, and that brings this one to a total of 26,066 stitches, and it is 10% complete. And this is my hay that is the furthest along. It's not the oldest. Two Dancing Peacocks is the oldest, but this one has the most progress on it. And this one was stitched 2 over 1 full cross using the Cod 4 DMC. All right, so let's move on to Stitchopoly for last week. So I had one more piece that I needed to get stitches on to finish up the last round, and that piece was Playing with Jacks. It's from the Cricket collection. And this piece was designed by Vicki Hastings. This is what it looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. So this is being stitched on 14 count Aida in the color Vintage Taupe, using all the Cod 4 DMC, 2 over 1 full cross, and I needed 300 stitches for Stitchopoly, the go. And so I worked on this pumpkin here. And so now this piece has a total of 941 stitches in it. All right. So let's move on to my gridiron grind stitching. So the first piece we're going to talk about is the piece that I use for the opposing teams. And again, that is, oh, just a second. And again, that piece is the Postman. And so this week was a free week for the Tennessee Volunteers, so there was no game. So, of course, I still stitch because I needed to get the stitches in for this one from the previous week, and then I'm behind for the other piece. So this is the Postman by Cottage Garden Samplings. And I'm using most of the Cod 4 threads on this one, with the exception of the Weeks Dye Works that it calls for. It calls for Aztecs Red, and I am substituting Color and Cotton Red Fox for that. And then it calls for 3799 DMC, and I am substituting Color and Cotton Rustic Black. So you should be seeing a picture of what it looked like previously. And here's where I got to on him. I needed 170 stitches from the previous week, and so I did that. I got 170 stitches on him, and I got my order in from Color and Cotton with the Rustic Black, so I finished up the little bit of Rustic Black there and worked some on the scarf around his neck. This is being stitched on 16 count Fiddler's Aida, 2 over 1 full cross, and it now has a total of 4,026 stitches complete. the other piece for my gridiron stitching is 2 dancing peacocks. This is what it will look like when it's complete. This is the piece that I'm using for the Tennessee Volunteers. This is what it looked like last time you saw it. And here's what it looks like now. So I continued the diagonal on this. This is being stitched on 18 count Ada in a white, off-white color. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you who the artwork is by. It's by Oleg Grolov. I put in 110 stitches on Saturday. And so this piece now has a total of 16,476 stitches in it. It's sitting at 3%. Alright, so now we're up to the new start that I had now 3 weeks ago, and it is Stephen King House by the Witchy Stitcher. And I started this piece, and I'm aiming to get as much of the frame, the black outline of it done by next April, before the Children of the Thread retreat in Estes Park. That way I'll be able to enjoy stitching inside the rooms while I'm there. So you should be seeing what it looked like last week before I had to frog the majority of it out, all but 3 stitches to be exact, because when I was showing it last week, I realized that I started in the middle of the fabric like I needed to. However, I didn't start in the middle of the pattern. What I did is I failed to make sure I was in the middle of the pattern, obviously. But what I did is I just started on the first page. So that meant that I started here. And so I had to frog that out and start here. So that's what I did. Is I frogged all but 3 stitches out and then started over. And so now this is being stitched on 32 count Lugana in the color Gray Magic by Be Stitch Me. 2/2 full cross, all the called for DMC, and I got a total of 64 stitches in after frogging yesterday, which gives me a grand total of 67 stitches on this piece. And again, this piece I am on Sundays, after I do my 1 strand a day on Candy Cane Santa, I am putting 2 strands in on this piece just on Sundays. And so I just want to see how far along I can get, or how far I can get by doing that till I'll leave for the retreat. And it'll be interesting to see just how far I can get. All right. So then let's go ahead and start talking about what I'm going to be, that was all my stitching for last week. Let's talk about what's going to be pulled out and stitched on for this week. So let's see, let me find it here. Sorry. Again, my 1 strand a day will be Candy Cane Santa. And what I'm doing on him, and I'm finding that I'm really enjoying this, and this brings me to something else I want to tell you guys. when I complete him, and he will stay in the 1 strand a day, 2 months at a time until he's complete. Once he's completed, I've already decided what piece I'm going to put in his spot. But what I'm doing is, I guess, kind of like a typewriter method on this one. And what I'm doing is I'm going up, and whatever the highest stitch is, or stitch needed, color needed, that's the color that I'm picking, and then I'm just following the thread wherever. So like I said, this past week, what I did is I started on like the ninja stitches. Like there was one here in his mouth, there was some here, and then I got over to here, and this would have been the next highest area, and that, I don't know if you can tell, that's a red. But I happened to have just a short length of thread for that that I hadn't used yet, so that's what I used, and so that's where I got to. But that's what I'm doing. So you'll notice on the next one it'll just kind of work its way down. But I'm really enjoying this method of doing this for whatever reason. Instead of just going from the middle and going out like I started the piece, once I got to the top, that's the way I started doing this one. And I'm really enjoying it. Which brings me to what I mentioned, the piece I know I'm going to replace it with. And that's going to be this piece, I've decided, since it's my biggest. Once, at least until I get tired of it, once that one is complete, this one will make its way into the rotation. And I think instead of staying on the diagonal, I'm going to work my way across and then start coming down with the typewriter method, and see if I can get a little quicker progress that way, because this one has so much confetti in it. It's very, very slow going, and I'm very anxious to get down to where the actual peacocks are in this piece. All right, so then my focus piece for this week is going to be Wizard. And this is a Design Works kit, or was it? It is, I guess. Designed by Joan Elliott. You should be seeing a picture of what it looked like. It is being stitched on everything that came in the kit. Sorry. And that includes this Ada 14 count in the color white. And I'm using, I believe, pretty much all, well, I take that back. There are some half stitches. There may even be a couple of quarter stitches in this, particularly up here. But there is one, I'm not sure what it is since it came with the kit, but there's a specialty thread. It's probably more like a Krynic in that gold. But I'm anxious to see how far I can get on him this week. I'll probably continue up here and I'm kind of working my way this way. I'll probably work in his hat some. May go ahead and try to bring this border over some. We'll see. But that is my focus piece for this week. All right. So let's talk about Stitchopoly. My Stitchopoly is my version of the game that Jen the Caffeinated Crafter and Sisky Stitches started. And they're both have YouTube channels. So I changed it up some, did my own version, and so I call mine Stitchopoly. But so I've got 4 pieces from this round that I'm going to have to work on, and I have increased the number of stitches. Stitch goes for the properties and whatnot. So it's taken me longer to get through these pieces. So the rounds last a little bit longer because I'm trying to stick to stitching on these just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so it's taken me just a little bit longer to get through it. Anyway, long story short, that was a lot of rambling for nothing. Candy Cane Santa is one of those pieces. And so I need to get 50 stitches on him. My next piece, let me grab it here, I'm sorry. Is Seahorses, which was my focus piece for last week. And I need 350 stitches on this. So I'll have to move my Q-snap and that'll bring me down. I don't know that it will get me to the end of this diagonal, but it'll be pretty close. So I need 350 stitches on this. Then the next piece, and I will have to put up a picture of what it will look like when it's finished. Next piece is Animal Crossing. It was designed by Stuart Cunningham, and at one point it was a sale for the Facebook group. It's free. It's no longer available. I don't believe it's available. I can't say with 100%. I know the Harry Potter Stitch Your Own Adventure isn't. But anyway, this is where I'll be starting from. This is being stitched on 32 count Lugana in the color Frost by Be Stitch Me. I'm using all the cut-forth thread, which I believe is all DMC, 2/1 full cross, and I need 550 stitches. And my plan of attack on this one is I'm just going to continue with the frame, and I will probably try to get the majority of the frame in until I get completely bored with it before I start filling in. And then my last piece for Stitchopoly is London, my London Haid. And you should be seeing a picture of what it will look like when it's finished. This is based on artwork by Chiro Machete. Here's where I'll be starting from. This is either 18 or 20 count Ada. I believe it's 20 count. All the cut-forth threads, which is DMC, 2/1 full cross, and I need 350 stitches on this one. So I'm excited to pull this back out. And then my other stitching for this week will be the Gridiron Grind, which there should be another football game this Saturday. And so I will be continuing on with Two Dancing Peacocks. And Gridiron Grind was an idea, a game, or a challenge that was started by Kim Hollenbeck on YouTube. So I'm using this for the Tennessee Volunteers. However many points they score, I multiply that by 10. For the opposing team, whatever they score, I multiply that by 5. And then whichever team wins gets an additional 50 stitches added to the total. But this is where I will be starting from for the postman. I may or may not stitch on this one this coming Saturday since he is completely caught up at this point. And I may just focus on 2 dancing peacocks to try to get some in, because on 2 dancing peacocks, I still need 1902 stitches to catch it up. So that may be what I do there with that. Then the last piece that I'm going to show you was a piece I believe I showed you last time. And it is a Halloween sampler by Teresa Kogut. This piece has its birthday this month, and that's why I'm pulling it out. I try to, when a piece has a, whatever month a piece has a birthday in, I try to pull it out and work on it at least one day if it is not in my regular rotation. If it's in my regular rotation, I do not. But this is where I will be starting from with this one. And I am using a combination of the called for and some substitutions, which once I actually stitch on it and I show you my progress, I will tell you more about the threads that I'm using. But that's where I will be starting from. And I didn't get a chance to work on it last week. I'm not 100% sure I'll get to work on it this week, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Excuse me. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is my rotation. I've been doing this rotation for at least 2 years now, and I really enjoy my rotation. And I originally got my idea from Brian at Blitz Stitch on YouTube, and it has helped me get a lot of progress on my pieces, I think. So I really enjoy it. However, I also still start things. And some of my categories were getting the number of pieces in it was getting rather long. So what I decided to do is I took my medium-sized category and my holiday/seasonal, boy, that was hard to say, category, and kind of split them up. And so now I have a large category, I have the medium category, I have a Christmas category, and then I have the holiday seasonal category. So I kind of split the two up into 4 to kind of shorten those some. So my rotation will change a little bit. I was going to wait until next year, but I decided why wait? Because where I'm at in my rotation right now, this week is Wizard, which is part of my medium category. And so I thought I'll just go ahead, and when I get to the new category where I have it in the rotation, I'll just go ahead. So the way going forward it will work is, of course, the first week of each month is my full coverage, my large full coverage pieces. And right now that's Hayes. Then the other 3 weeks of the month is I work my way through the other categories. The other categories. So previously, the next category would have been medium full coverage. Did I change that? I cannot remember. I got it written down somewhere. I can't remember if I put the large category in front of that one or after it. Either way, it'll be the Hayed large category, medium full coverage, medium category. Then we move on to samplers, smalls, chatelaines, and then Christmas, my new category, and then we end the rotation with holiday seasonal. And I'm starting to get quite a few Halloween themed pieces in there. So eventually, depending on, you know, how many finishes I get, how many things I start, if that category starts growing again, I may, you know, pull the Halloween themed pieces out of there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'd be interested to hear if any of you guys have any multiple pieces that you're working on. Do you have them in any sort of rotation? And if you do, what is your rotation? I'd be curious to see, because I'm always, you know, we want to change things up sometimes just to, you know, keep us interested in what we're stitching on. And that's one reason that I love my rotation, because the few days I stitch on it, I get to change out to something else, and so I'm excited to come back to each piece because of that. And you know, it just keeps you really excited about what you're stitching on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But having said that, that's all I have for you guys today. I will let you go. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Take some time for yourself and get some stitching in. Until next time, bye.